Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into Elon Musk's grand vision for humanity's future. It's this incredible blueprint that connects social media, artificial intelligence, and, well, the very fabric of reality itself. It's a chain of logic that starts with something as simple as a tweet and ends with, well, pretty much everything.
So let's just start with this bombshell of a prediction. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? But for Musk, this isn't some wild guess. It's the logical conclusion of a whole series of technological and social shifts that he sees as not just possible, but basically inevitable. So let's trace the steps. Let's follow the breadcrumbs that lead to this pretty extraordinary claim.
All right, to really get where Musk thinks we're all headed, we have to start right here, right now, specifically in our digital lives. The entire foundation of his blueprint really begins with how he's been transforming Twitter into the platform he now calls X.
Musk's view was that the old platform had a pretty heavy bias. He felt it was amplifying a very specific ideology, heavily influenced by its San Francisco roots, and was basically putting a thumb on the scale of the global conversation. So his stated goal with X is to pull it back to the center, to create a neutral space that just adheres to the local laws of each country, not some internal, unspoken set of rules. He's not just tweaking an app here. He's really trying to build a totally new kind of global forum.
But, a neutral forum, that's just the starting line. Musk's ultimate vision for X is way, way more ambitious. He actually talks about it as creating a collective consciousness for all of humanity. A huge piece of this is automatic translation, which would allow the thoughts and ideas from every language on Earth to merge into one single, flowing conversation. The end goal is to get us as close as we possibly can to a single, unified human mind.
Okay, so this obviously raises a massive philosophical question. I mean, why? Why do we even need a collective consciousness? What is the point of wiring all of our brains together into one giant global network? Well, for Musk, asking that exact question is the point.
The way he explains it, the universe is the answer, but we don't even know the right questions to ask about it yet. Think of it like this. A collection of 30 trillion individual cells creates a human being who can think in ways a single cell couldn't even dream of. So, by that logic, a collection of billions of humans, if you connect them in the right way, could reach a whole new level of understanding. For him, this collective consciousness is the tool we need to finally start figuring out what's really going on.
And this is where all that big, high-level philosophy comes crashing right down into our everyday lives. See, this whole quest for a higher consciousness is powered by the very same technology that he believes will completely change the idea of having a job forever. All right, let's dive into this timeline because it is shockingly close. He is predicting that in less than 2 decades, work as we know it just won't be a necessity anymore. It'll be something you do if you want to do it. Like a hobby, not something you have to do just to survive. The thing that really jumps out here is just the speed. He totally gets that people might look back on this and say it's a ridiculous prediction, but he seems completely confident in how fast AI and robotics are moving. This isn't some far-off, futuristic, cartoon world. He sees this as being right around the corner. So how exactly do we get there? Well, he lays out a pretty clear sequence of events. First, AI and robotics get so good they can create literally any good or service you can think of. That leads to a world of real, genuine abundance, where scarcity isn't the main driver of our economy anymore. And in a world like that, human labor just isn't required for production. The result isn't just universal basic income, right, where everyone gets just enough to get by. No, Musk pictures universal high income, a world where pretty much everyone has access to almost anything they want because making it costs next to nothing. Okay, so if we get to this future of total abundance, where AI and robots can make anything we want and nobody has to work to make a living, what on earth happens to money? Well, according to Musk, it basically becomes obsolete. He says that we fundamentally misunderstand what money even is. We tend to think of it as power, but really, it's just a database. It's an information system for one thing: allocating human labor. As he puts it, $1 trillion on a deserted island is completely useless because there's no labor to allocate. So if AI and robotics get rid of the need for human labor, then money, by its very definition, just loses its purpose. This whole thing builds to what you could almost call an economic singularity. The logic just flows from one step to the next. Hyperabundance makes labor unnecessary, which in turn makes money pointless. So, what takes its place? What becomes the fundamental measure of value in a world after money? The answer, he says, is energy.
And this is the crucial point.
Value shifts from a system that humans just made up, money, to a fundamental law of physics. You can't just print more energy. You can't pass a law and have it magically appear. It is the real physics-based way to measure the ability to do useful work. In this future, a civilization's progress is measured simply by how much energy it can harness. So, from the future of work to the end of money, this entire blueprint finally leads us to the most mind-bending question of them all, one that really sits at the absolute heart of Musk's worldview. What is the nature of reality itself? Now, he comes at the whole simulation theory not as science fiction, but as a really straightforward problem of probability. And his argument starts with a simple observation that we can all see: the evolution of video games just within our own lifetimes. I mean, think about it. 50 years ago, the pinnacle of gaming was Pong. Literally, 2 rectangles and a dot. Today, we have these photorealistic, massive multiplayer online games. If you just follow that trend line forward, it seems almost inevitable that video games will eventually become completely indistinguishable from reality. And if that's possible, it stands to reason that any advanced civilization wouldn't just create one, they'd create billions of these simulated realities. So it just becomes a simple numbers game. If there's one base reality and potentially billions of simulated realities that feel just as real to the people inside them, what are the odds that we just happen to be in the single original one? Statistically, it's just far more likely that we are in one of the countless simulations. And this all leads to the final, really provocative takeaway. If we are in a simulation, what does that mean for our purpose? Musk suggests that, just like we'd get bored with and delete a dull simulation, whatever entity might be running our reality would probably ensure it only survives if it's interesting. So from a kind of Darwinian perspective, the most interesting simulations are the ones that last. Which leaves us with a final thought. If we are living inside a simulation, maybe our purpose isn't just to survive, but to make the story of humanity the most interesting one possible.